Hello, everyone. Today, I will be talking about the Tulsa Massacre, which is a story about American expansion, how to save, how to find a space for an integrated society of Native Americans who also had slaves. After watching the four documentaries, The Legacy of Black Wall Street, that was broadcasted on OWN, Tulsa, The Fire and the Forgotten, that was broadcast on PBS, Dreamland, The Burning of Black Wall Street, that was executive produced by LeBron James and broadcast on CNN, and Tulsa Burning, that was executive produced by Russell Westbrook and broadcasted on the History Channel. This video will give you a reason to watch all of these films, and then also watch In Class with Dr. Greg Carr on Knarrative with journalist and publisher and Professor Karen Hunter. All of these documentaries tell us more about the historical five civilized tribes: Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Seminole, Creek, who were to be removed from Georgia, Florida, and other parts of the South through the Indian Removal Act. These tribes had slaves. We're also on who were also on the Trail of Tears on their way to Oklahoma. These individuals received 1,192,240 acres were given to the freedmen, which were the newly freed slaves from these civilized tribes. Interestingly enough, after the land was divided amongst these tribes, former slaves were still part of the tribe. Then the country allowed people to purchase the leftover land. The two films that explore these topics were The Legacy of Black Wall Street and Tulsa, The Fire and the Forgotten, and Dreamland, The Burning of Black Wall Street. When these tribes were displaced, no one knew how valuable the land was. Oil was plentiful in Tulsa, which caused a boom and more whites to move to the location. Greenwood is not the only Black district in Oklahoma and within the country, but this place was obliterated in 1921. Yet Dr. Greg Carr is the only one who spends time to explain that all businesses were rebuilt and bigger with more businesses in the 1950s. What killed Greenwood was integration, which killed the supply chain and Black dollars circulating within the community. Yet in 1921's massacre displaced people and killed generational wealth and major disbursement of people. The Legacy of Black Wall Street and Tulsa, The Fire and the Forgotten explain how Blacks were interested in making Oklahoma the first Black state. Now, this may seem strange, but you have to remember that Benjamin Franklin wanted to keep the United States as an Anglo-Saxon state in which slaves would eventually be sent back to Africa. In fact, President Lincoln wanted to also send Blacks back to Africa, or at least Costa Rica. The idea of many abolitionists felt that Blacks would never be fully accepted into the United States, and that returning to Africa, a more, quote, civilized and Christianized people, would atone for the crime Americans conducted on Black people, as these slaves will return to civilize this quote unquote barbaric land of Africa. The United States Congress founded Liberia for formerly enslaved people to live. There were very few Blacks who took the free ride out of America, and even Jamaican Marcus Garvey Return to Africa program is something that abolitionists funded and produced very few Blacks who took up that offer. Therefore, having a Black state was not an oddity. Lulu Williams had 3 theaters amongst other businesses, which is one theater being named Dreamland, which is the name of the documentary. Now, the legacy of Black Wall Street tapped into something that the other documentaries did not speak about: the guardianship law. Oklahoma passed a law that gave white men the guardianship of any Black or Native American child whose land had oil on it. Dr. Greg Carr points out that the 40 acres and the mule law was land not only not given to just adults, but any person over 1 year old. The problem is this: how do you pay property taxes? This became another way to take land back. So the guardianship law was another way to not only take the land eventually, but to take the profits of the oil that was on the land. The legacy of Black Wall Street points out that A.J. Sutherman was arrested for telling whites at the city hall that he would kill them before they take guardianship of his children. He fought in court and won, and established an organization to protect all of these people who had a white guardian. The legacy of Black Wall Street even points out that Greenwood residents were asked to sell their property and move further north. A.J. Sutherman created the Black newspaper, who helped push Black people to vote for the Democratic Party, since he noticed that Republicans were beginning to vote against civil rights. Blacks were a target, so the casual encounter between a Black man and a white woman was really just a catalyst and a poor excuse to start the Tulsa Massacre. Blacks were thriving financially, socially, educationally, and politically. Therefore, this community needed to go. Tulsa Burning gave a great depiction of the voices of the people who lived through this time, but also Dreamland, the burning of Black Wall Street, showed many recorded narratives of these events. It is not until the PBS documentary that you're able to see a white man who witnessed the events. Everything in Greenwood was destroyed: libraries, medical facilities, homes, etc. Everything was looted. The fire department could not stop on fire. The police deputized any white person, mostly a mob of men and boys, with stolen guns and ammunition. There were air raids and people were shot with no mercy. Right after the Tulsa Massacre, the, the Tulsa, the Fire, and the Forgotten documentary demonstrated that KKK marched in the thousands and erected a building to demonstrate their power. Now, all of the documentaries are there trying to talk about what's happening presently as they're excavating mass graves to document this story. Finally, after 100 years later, no one was arrested and no one was found financially responsible. Now let's pause and start asking questions, which is what we will consider. What? How do you find justice? As in, do you find out the exact perpetrators of these events? There are birth records, records of who was on the police and fire department at least. I am sure that there are white people who still live who were there. Um, how do you, two, how do you financially compensate these descendants? The land is currently divided with a highway in it, etc. So you cannot turn over land. How does reparations happen? There were so many legal attempts over 100 years. Currently, the trend is trying to prove their connection to the freemen, as freemen are always part of the Native American civilized tribes, because the statute of limitations are different and the land would be forced to be returned, since over the years of America robbing Native Americans land, the laws and courts have been strict in returning directly stolen land back to the Native groups. 3, the legacy is an issue. How do we honor it without there being a feeling of people profiting from these individuals' pain and suffering?